Here.
Commissioner Whittington. Commissioner Burgle.
Here.
Thank you. And before us, we have, and currently, a special meeting, board meeting for the revised dog ordinance, reverting from the state's version to our own, lowering some of the penalties and customizing it and tailoring it to Gladwin County's townships and residents. Are there any questions, concerns with the dog ordinance? Questions for Jim? There was a letter presented by an individual, and you saw that in your packet, and the response from the attorney basically stating that the ferrets and skunks and some of those other animals would require a permit from the DNR, not necessarily from us either way. And in the future, if this board wants to put wording in there, we certainly can, but the attorney is confident that we're set with that. We don't govern those.
But she is licensed through the DNR, which we told her she was fine at the time that she had called the animal control. And she still didn't like our answer, and we gave her that she would be covered as long as she's licensed through the DNR.
Right.
Well, I presented a number of my township meetings and reasons why we've done it, you know, that we're keeping more of that money in the county at the state level, and we've lowered the prices of the fines. I didn't find any resistance to it in my township.
I did as well, Josh. I've given the details, answered questions to Beaver City, Beaver Township, Grout, and other groups that ask questions about it. And no one seems to be opposed to the idea, especially when you factor in any revenue resulting from this would stay with the county. We're not getting this going to the state. So.
Right. And, you know, again, the only negative that I've heard, the only one, is the phone call I got from this individual who gave us the letter by my request, so we could look at it and have the attorney review it. And
But
so,
had she asked me a question, I would have answered the same she did, that it's the DNR issue. So.
fair enough. I guess we'd entertain a motion.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carl.
Yes.
Commissioner Walters.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Whittington.
Yes.
Commissioner Burgle.
Yes.
And the effective date on this, I just read that. Doesn't this have to be, it was in the paper, this is a public hearing. So effective immediately? Is what- Was it immediate, is what he was looking for, Jim?
Yeah, as soon as we can do it.
Just make it the first of the month.
And do we need to vote on that again since we didn't specify that?
I'm not getting my motion.
Fair enough. Anything else on the dog ordinance? If not, we'll go out of our special meeting and wait about 4 minutes for our regular scheduled board meeting. We've got, there was the dog ordinance and then the kennel license standard, but that's part of the dog ordinance, so I don't think that needs to be done separately.
Maybe we should, as long as we get kennel into it.
Of course.
Okay, we'll wait a few more minutes till the board meeting. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the cuts and consolidations that this board has done, or this county, over the past several years, and the memo from our financial coordinator. I'll do that right after Mike Hargrave, which will probably put us at 9:40-ish. Is there anything else?
Move for approval of consent agenda. Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Reading of the cash balances.
One
101 general fund is $138,331.24. Advance, allocated back to $655,000. Advance from 239 Gypsy Moth, $280,000. For total, we have cash of $138,331.24 after the bill.
Thank you. Public comments. Are there any public comments at this time? Vince?
Yeah, I have a question about the FEMA floodplain. Mr. Evans come by to our township, and this has been a few months back, wanted us to go over all the addresses to verify them. We've had an individual do a street, and they found 3 wrong out of, so subsequently, that adds up, twice to 6, because the ones that were wrong. What is he being paid for? He's supposed to represent the township, the county, am I right?
Sure.
And every time you speak to Mr. Evans, and I was hoping he would have been here, he's just defending this Lee Mueller. Something's got to be done to coordinate in our township the addresses with what they have. It seems like it's getting worse instead of getting better. I don't know how anybody on the commissioners feel, but I was involved in this about 3 years ago, and now I'm seeing this from the background. I hear from our supervisor, he explains it. And this is his job to do. We paid $19,000 and change to get involved in this to the county, and nothing's being done.
There is, and I'm trying to think of the proper procedure here, but probably the best thing is to have another FEMA task force meeting, which is a subcommittee of our county affairs committee.
Is he gonna show up though?
Well, I hope so.
Aren't we a little maybe too late on that though, Josh? At the last meeting that I went to, in 2 weeks, he was gonna send in the maps with or without the addresses. Those 2 weeks, I think, are here. Have they been sent in?
I have no idea. if
Dennis,
they've
do you
been
know if
sent
they've
in.
been sent in? Okay. Well, I think it's pretty close that they've been, and he told me they were not going to do the addressing for Lake Shore. And I told him I wasn't comfortable with it. I proved to him that there was mistakes on Eleanor Drive. There's only 18 there. I got 64 on Lake Shore. I wasn't comfortable. As Vince said, just tell me he gets paid or he doesn't get paid to take care of that. If he doesn't get paid to take care of it, I'd walk out right now. I got no issue. If he gets paid to take care of it, and we paid 19 grand and change, I want it taken care of.
I understand. He's an elected official, and we really have little authority over him, but what do you think, Dennis? I think we should have a FEMA meeting and make sure we try to invite him.
Probably would be a good idea.
Your call, when would you want to do one?
Would it be a good idea, as he mentioned, would he show up or would he not show up? Might be a good idea to check with him to see when he's available.
I think probably the best thing to do would be to contact him and ask him to schedule it.
Okay.
Or just let me know if they've already been sent in and you're not going to get the addresses for Lake Shore, which is what he told me probably wouldn't happen. I need an answer on that. That's really all I need. I don't think we're doing. I asked him about, there's one of my trustees, his house isn't even on the map. I have asked 4 times to put his house on the map so we can see whether he's in the floodplain or not. Can't get it done.
Okay. I'll call him myself, and I'll talk to Bob and see if he can accommodate your request, and then if there's some issues, I'll get with you, Dennis, and maybe we can coordinate it.
Well, as well as asking him if those maps have indeed been sent.
Right. Because actually, what we should have Bob do is just a 4 or 5 sentence, update for the task force. This is where we're at, what we've done, where we're going.
I heard from some of the supervisors they've been sent, but
The rest of the supervisors have 4 and 5 houses. I've got 68 on Lake Shore and I've got 18 on Elmore.
Right.
I already proved, like I said, there's somewhere wrong. This is getting redundant, I keep saying this, but nothing's getting done with Mr. Evans, so.
Fair enough. I'll look into it
We
myself.
appreciate it, anything.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes.
I'm Tad Fader, Maggie Township. I've been coming to these meetings for fairly consistently for a few months now, watching your budget struggles. That's why I'm here. Really, my concern is the budget struggle, and how it is going to affect the residents of the county. This may be trivial. There was a question. I look at your minutes that were on the table here, and I was at this meeting on May 14th where we talked about a part-time clerk, and some of the conversations I've been witnessing is we want to hire from within. We don't want to hire from without. We want to try to move people around and not lay off. I wasn't able to attend the special meeting on the 17th, but it appears that within 3 days you reconsidered not paying this clerk. And I'm just kind of curious. I trust you guys. There's a reason for that. This board seems to be pretty consistent. They think things through. They work together. I wonder if you can help us understand why that would be reconsidered in such a short time frame.
Sure. As for the part-time employee, the reconsideration was that district court themselves was down to 3 employees, and we felt here, although I personally didn't support it because I still had my concerns, but as a board as a whole, they felt that, we shouldn't cut them to that level. And as far as training that one employee, we didn't feel that we should put the employee right in the middle of our battle between, county budget and when somebody should be hired or shouldn't be, although we've made it clear for the past several years, dating back to 2008, that finance and this board wants to be involved with new employee positions or vacated positions. Maybe we haven't been as aggressive as we should have been, but I think over the past few months we have been, and we need to continue to do that. But that was, what this board considered. They have the part-time position that we voted to fund, that was the district court probation, and then they had the full-time position available, so it was more not devastating to their level. And again, we wanted them to fill that from within. I don't know whether they did or didn't, honestly, they need to find somebody that's qualified to do the job. My hopes are that they hired from within, but.
But the idea would be to hire from within and to go through finance before you hire.
Right.
Because you guys, we elect you to represent us as oversight. So I hope that you guys would work together. I've heard that many times out of our chair. We need to work together. And I was just kind of concerned, if they can hire and fire on their own, then, what role would you guys have?
Right. Yeah, it's a legitimate concern, and, but speaking to the special meeting that we had, we addressed the part-timer, and that's what we felt is a concession, give and take, I guess.
Well, the thing that we went through with them, and we had the judge up here, I don't know, 1 time, 5 times, whatever. And basically, he told us, as late as last week, when the last meeting we had, that he could not operate that court without adequate staff. I know that's, and I'm talking about the part-time originally, and Mike Greer and the judge came up again. And without going through an hour and a half conversation we had with them, it appeared to us that, and we hear this story all the time, like, can't operate without their staff. But I think they were down to 2 employees. Inexperienced. Maybe seen it. And they went about it. I mean, they, and this is no excuse for them, they are one of the big revenue sources for the county. And obviously, we can't shut the courts down, but that was what the judge told us.
And that was probate court.
Well, probate court, they hired, we just didn't know about it. Then there was the part-timer that we're talking about, that was the district court probation clerk. They still had another full-time position available, which we was gonna talk about later on today, or we will be on the finance report. We met with Greer and Josh, Judge Farrell, I should say. What day was that, Thursday, maybe? Monday.
We've had so many, and I'm not looking for any star, but we've had so many meetings that I haven't even been able to attend all my township meetings. And, things goes through.
Well, getting back to your question,
What changed?
we're really trying to look at all avenues here. So the judges came up, the magistrate and judge came up, and they were talking to finance, Terry and I, and they brought up that there could be litigation if we didn't give them their people, because, you know, it appeared the district court was being singled out, and that their employees are having to do multiple tasks outside of what their union contracts read, and there could be grievances filed, and they're trying to avoid all that. And to me, it was interesting that district court's separate from circuit court. That's news to me, and I guess I'm learning as we go, but apparently there's 2 administrators, the magistrate's an administrator, and Daryl for the circuit court. That was new to me. There was multiple arguments both ways, and I won't even call it arguments. There was lengthy discussion.
When you say litigation, what do you mean by that? You mean the courts suing the commission?
I'm not really sure, because we didn't talk about it in great detail.
Is that a common practice in Gladwin County, or?
We try not to make that common practice, which is,
We have, over the years, and I know that's, and yes, we have been through litigation, our litigation has been started, never brought to a head, unfortunately. But that's always their option.
It'd be the worst possible time to start taking tax dollars and start eating on each other. I just wanted to speak for the public and that you all know that can't happen.
that's part of why Terry and I discussed our recommendation to the board today, which is going to be to fill that part-time or the full-time position that they've requested. They're looking at, you know, some of their show causes and tweaking some of the other revenues to bring them in line with some of the other communities. Do we like it? No. But again, to avoid any possible litigation or anything else at this point, if in fact district court is separate from circuit court, again, I say that's news to me. Maybe this makes sense because they have only the 3 people down there, so, you know, moving forward, we need to be very careful. And again, you know, I think we need to make sure that we're all working together and that all these vacated positions are brought to finance in this board so we can talk about them and try to move in people internally. In fact, the posting, we wanted to rate on the posting that Terry and I want that person to come from inside if at all possible. It has to be one of our own employees. Now, whether that happens, whether there's a qualified person to do that, that's their call, not ours necessarily, but.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and thanks for what you guys are doing. I know it's tough. We're, you know, we're the pickle.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your concern.
Are there any other public comments? Lengthy this morning. Hearing none, moving forward. I don't see Rick Seebeck here. Mike Hargrave. All right, I added myself, I'll just jump in here. I'll do this first. there's a memo that Neil, our financial coordinator, sent out late last night, actually. And while you guys read that through, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention more as a reminder, and I'll try to do this very briefly. If you want this in great detail, you can go to the last 3 pages of our EBIP that's been submitted by the county, which would have been the first filer. But this board has worked with the department heads over the past several years trying to do consolidations, concessions, savings. Obviously, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but nevertheless, I'm just going to go through some of these. But there was a reduction in the MSU extension staff. There was a reduction of a sergeant at the sheriff's department, and that brought us to a savings of about $2,300. And I'm just talking general numbers here because I want to keep this fast. Reduction of janitorial staff is roughly $29,000. Purchasing contracts, our maintenance department negotiated better contracts. We had a consortium that we organized some time ago. This may have been part of that, roughly $1,500 a year in savings in some of these chemicals that we use for cleaners around here. Centralized purchasing, something that the clerk started herself, saving the county several thousands of dollars. We also extend that to the townships. That saves between $12,000 and $20,000 a year. The GIS is something that we started as a team with the townships. So the county and the townships got together, everybody kicked in. It cost roughly, I don't know, $60,000. That's been more than paid back to the GIS fund. And then there's some records updating and different things that we've done. Gypsy Moth Spray Program, they negotiated a 3-year contract with the sprays that saved us some money. The seasonal teams were cut back to, instead of 4, there's 2 seasonal teams going out and studying gypsy moth locations, so there's $2,100 in savings there. We negotiated better rates with our credit card services from roughly 5% to 2.25%, which creates more revenue to the county. We could talk, but there's no sense in talking about consolidation between equalization and treasurer's office. That'll go prove that sometimes your plans don't always work, but at least we tried. There was district court arraignments. I don't know what that one's all about there. Oh, there was a grant for video arraignments. District court's using that. That should reduce some of our costs in transporting inmates. Court printed forms, we reduced that by $1,000 a year, just trying to consolidate some of our forms. There was a reduction in a probation clerk in district court, $13,000 a year savings, although I believe that's the one we lost our revenue on. Reduction of our board members, just losing our 2 board members, and some of the other costs that we tried to pull out with paper and things. There's roughly $17,000 a year savings there. Reduction in the county attorney, we negotiated a monthly rate, basically retaining a county attorney, saving us some money. Reduction of the register of deeds staff, although we just did fill that, but there is $48,000 a year in savings there for several years. The clerk, I believe, came to the finance committee at the time. I was involved with this vending machine, and we purchased vending machines, and we make roughly $800 a year selling food. Probably not the best food for you, but nevertheless. Drain assessment rolls are being digitalized, which will save us time and money in the future. There was the election coding and some judicial accounting payroll software that the clerk was involved with. Cutting back on our billing roughly 50%. We share that with Clare County. Reduction of animal control staff. We reduced a full-time animal control officer, $34,000 a year in savings there. Reduced an electrical inspection from full-time to part-time, $31,000 in savings. We added a plumbing and mechanical inspector, which creates us $50,000-ish a year in revenue because the state got all that before the state did it. And then we combined the zoning department, soil erosion and construction codes, saving the county roughly in the neighborhood of $50,000. And there's a few others. Just this year, we've instituted our ATM machines, which we think will help grab some cash so people that are here can get the cash to pay their fines and penalties. The sheriff's department's done multiple things that isn't on this report as far as phone cards, some visitation time slots, electronic cigarettes, the catered meals, and they're looking at a prescription drug savings right now. That's just to mention a few things that we've done, and this isn't a complete and full list, but as you can see, it's not that we've not reacted to some of our budgetary concerns. We're trying to do it. It's not necessarily been popular, and it is stressful, challenging. Nevertheless, there's a memorandum here from Neil, and this should have went to all department heads last night or this morning, maybe.
I just got it this morning and sent it to Carmen before.
So he, you forwarded it to the department heads or not?
I don't have, I sent it
Okay,
to Carmen
okay.
before, yeah.
So we'll send it out later on. But this is a response to some of the department heads. They had phase 1 and phase 2. So there was some budget amendments they wanted done, which we've done, and I don't need to go through every one of these right now. And again, he emphasizes within this whole memorandum that, you know, our county budget is still $1,051,844 in the deficit from where he figures we should be. And even with all our cuts and consolidations that we've done, we're at that point. And I want to point out, it's not that necessarily we've made terrible decisions all the time. Sometimes we're a little too soft-hearted. I'll be the first to admit that. But there's costs that come up that we can't control. We just got a letter from Daryl. DHS needs another $75,000 this year. And again, I just told you guys a couple meetings ago that I went to that board and sat down with them and tried to sort through why is it costing so much money? And they have every reason in the world, you know. The cost of foster care goes up, and we have these special homes that they have to go to, and you know, it's hard for us to control that at our level, although going and attending those meetings and putting the pressure on works. Sometimes, not necessarily this time, but you know, you've got those costs that we didn't build into our budget. And then we had our current contract with our equalization directors that failed, so we had to reorganize that department. We had March 31st deadlines that had to be met. And that was pretty stressful to reorganize a whole department and get that taken care of. You don't realize how many meetings that, well, some of you do, but Terry and I have to set in just to make that all happen. And whether we want to spend the money or not, it has to be done because somebody has to do it. So there's operating accounting. You have to balance what your constituents want, what the state wants, and then how much money you have. That's the tricky part. There's only so much to go around. In Neil's memo here, and you'll read, if you read through this, and for some reason mine's an incomplete version.
Well, I might add to it if I may. On behalf of this, the present board here, it's not like, you know, this goes back many years. Some of you guys may even hear of it, and they pay the price for it now. So, you mentioned some bad decisions. You don't know how the previous board come up with some of the decisions. But I just wanted the public to know that some of you're paying the price for something you had to control. So I can't see that.
Yes. Well, Laura, let me borrow your memo, please. I misplaced mine. So, Neil, once again, and I've talked to him throughout the weekend as we was trying to hammer this down. I don't think any of us here are comfortable with reductions. I don't think we like them. I think they're the tough decisions to make. And I personally don't like that on his list here, this appears to be the list that we had a month ago. He's got 2 deputies, but nevertheless, he's looking for $239,370. He's looking to reduce correction officer from full-time to part-time, 2 of them. Lay off 2 deputies, a dispatcher, and our board secretary from full-time to part-time. Again, he's looking for $200,000 out of the sheriff's department. We this board, I don't think wants to tell the sheriff's department what to do. So he did recommend that we consider these layoffs and give the sheriff's department till Monday to get with us on what he would recommend for cuts. Again, it's not a decision we want to make. We really want the sheriff's department to do that, but we've been unsuccessful in our multiple meetings getting anywhere with that, so, as he states here. So Neil would like an action on this. Again, he's pointing back to our deficit and trying to bring this county back in line so we can make payroll and not struggle through and appropriate funds from every other fund. And he's saying, I've been telling you guys, and again, he could be here doing this, but I can do it just as well, and we'd pay him to be here to do it. And he's gonna tell you the same thing, because we've had lengthy conversations about this. But nevertheless, this is where we're at. And he would like action on this soon, today. And that's what we need to talk about.
And I just talked to the treasurer, we have 138,000 in the general fund right now. We're gonna have to take and put another roughly 30 to 40,000 that's to make payroll to 160 to 170,000. So we're in trouble right there.
And we did wait, we've stalled. Neil's been somewhat patiently waiting, but we've not wanted to make any cuts until we were comfortable that these numbers are what Neil thinks they are. He wanted us to start cutting 2 months ago-ish, and made different recommendations that we couldn't all agree on, and we're still not gonna agree on them necessarily. But again, he's given us a way that we can cut that money. We're hoping that we can get that, sit down with the sheriff's department and get that by Monday. But
Josh, with that $1,051,000 deficit, I mean, is he including revenue that we get in daily?
he ran that last night.
Because $239,000 isn't gonna fix your $1,051,000 deficit.
Right.
I mean, you can do the math, but there's a difference there. I'm not sure where he's getting these figures. I'm not included in these emails for whatever reason, but I think it's something that the board needs to look at. Yes, we have $138,000 in general fund currently. We have bills that are paid daily, and then payroll next week, but we also have revenue coming in that's going to offset that. And we've known that we've always had a cash flow issue for the last however many years. And you guys have used from Gypsy Moth and from unallocated.
And I mentioned Christie this morning, we talked a little while here, but, it's been mentioned about going to one of the banks and borrowing money, 2-3% on top of what we're gonna borrow. And then we have
Probably $13,000 for fees.
right.
And
That's
the
just a
problem,
short-term resolution.
right, the problem with that is every year it gets worse and worse. We've dwindled all our monies that we've had set aside that we've been able to fall back on. We've dwindled that away.
Years ago, when I was across the street, the county was probably sitting on close to 7 million. And every year, we've just we keep adding to it, giving and giving and giving, because we know everybody here just about, and we want to make everybody happy. Well, we can't do that anymore. And they're all families and friends, and we don't like to see things happen, but it's come down to where it's going to look like commissioners, they didn't do their job. And I don't want to fall back and say we didn't do our job and have the controller come in and take over.
No, I'd like to mention too, that there's a number of things that we've looked at. Revenue enhancement, most of the departments, not all, done what we can to revenue. But no matter, we can flip-flop back and forth, but I'll tell you, we're treading water now. We may not sink tomorrow, but it's something we have got to address. I think the time has come that we really don't have a choice. there's cuts in here that we all worked hard to establish. I'm going to mention a couple of them. One is the EDC, one is the airport. Put a lot of time and effort into that. Chairman pointed out, we look at so many things, so many options, and I think, regardless of what we do, Neil was asking us to do something.
And I don't think it's fair to take and go back to the people and tell them that we need more money by increasing taxes. I don't think that's the answer, because everybody's hurting, not only us, but everybody that's out there taxpayer-wise.
And, you know, I mentioned also, and I know you guys read it too, but there was mention of the Headley rollback. I don't remember the word he used, exact word, but it was something to the effect. He's not going to recommend that until all of the contracts have been settled.
I'm sorry to interject, but that then cannot happen this year. So you guys are gonna go another year without collecting the Headley rollback?
The last
That
one was
language has to
72.
be approved by August 27th, I wanna say, to go on the November election?
I think what he meant was he wanted us to go through our rounds of cuts and settle this in shortly. Now, we need that on if we was to do something like
No, I
that.
think
but
Terry read it correctly, that he is
That's
not.
exactly what he said.
Is that what he has on this version?
Yeah, he does.
You guys can't afford not to put that to part.
So he wants to make sure all the unions
pay.
Because it will be listed as a tax
Yeah.
increase.
Oh, until the several,
But I guess what I'm just saying, I don't know what else we can look at.
and you saw where we're levying the 15 mills for veterans, so it's fantastic that the veterans, wanted us to try to levy the 1/10 mill, but we can't do that at this point either, so.
So what you're looking for, Josh, is a motion, if I got it right, is a motion to approve Neil's recommendations with the understanding that if the sheriff finds the same dollar savings by other means by next Monday, if the board will reconsider. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, his wording was a little bit different to me. If they could come to us with the $200,000 in the neighborhood of $200,000 by Monday, we would consider that. Otherwise, he wanted to institute the layoffs, the recommended layoffs. So, because otherwise, we would end up having to have another special board meeting just to,
Right.
but yeah, that's what we're looking for, I guess.
That's your motion.
Sure. Yes.
Since you're prepared to do that, I just want to throw out, since you've handed out another one of Neil's reports, that, again, these aren't exactly accurate. You're getting poor financial advice from him, and I hope you're prepared to justify what he's recommending to you, because based on what I know, most of this isn't justified.
I'm sorry you feel that way, and again, I'm gonna tell you, I really would
Well, I'm not
like you
looking
to
for a
talk
personal
to
apology
Neil
or
about
personal
this.
opinions, I'm stating it as a matter of fact. I know everybody has these now, and I don't want people in this room to think this is gospel, just because he said it.
Again, I would like you to talk to Neil about those numbers that you're not comfortable with. I've told you that before. You need to be comfortable with him as much as we are, and that's what we hired him to do.
Well, it's a shame that you're comfortable with this, but
So there's motion, and was there support?
There's no support?
Was there?
The motion is to accept
Restate
this.
the motion, Josh, please.
Presented.
The motion would be that we accept this memorandum, I guess, as it's presented, and allow the sheriff's department to get with us by Monday with, in the neighborhood of 200,000 in reductions, and/or, I guess, revenues, because I know they're working on that prescription drug thing, for example, or we would begin instituting the layoffs.
But what I want to mention, just so that the one that I really also have a problem with is secretary. And maybe it's just selfishness on my part, but if we lose our secretary, what are we going to do? I mean, I'm asking a question, you know, look at this, and then, but who's going to do this? That's going to be tough. We're a department of one. And I know it's, and I don't have the answers, but I think, I'm not gonna be sitting up there answering the phone and making, something to think about, because, and the reason is that because it's in this packet.
Josh, by accepting this memo, does that mean that you're not going to go with the Headley override?
Just
Is
at
it
this,
his recommendation?
just at this point. We'll talk to him about that, but that's what he's saying right now. That's what he wants. Now, that don't mean that we agree with that, and we can sit down with him, but again, we hired him to do a job that I think we need to trust him with, because clearly, we've been too compassionate possibly in the past. I don't know. So there's a motion, and was there support again?
Read.
No, and I've heard you mention that you keep implying that the employees of this county are the reason that this county is in this financial situation. When you make comments like that, that's the message you're sending, and I assure you that's not the problem. So if you agree with that, I'd like you to correct it, because you keep sending that message that you've been too compassionate. That makes it sound like you're just giving all the employees here so many wonderful things, and all the departments are just increasing in staffing, and that could be further from the truth.
Again, that's not us necessarily saying that, that's our financial coordinator, so. There's a motion, is there support? Rick?
As you all know, I'm down to one person in my department as well, and I just want to speak that Carmen picks up a lot of stuff because I'm not in the office and takes care of for me, which she has all along. But a lot more so that I'm down to one person because I'm not in the field a lot, and without her being here, you know, I don't know what's going to take place there either.
I'm a department head of a different kind of department. I own a business. And when my income dropped $100,000 in 1 year, I answered my own phones. And I worked on my own cars coming in the shop because I didn't have money to give people. That's sometimes the tough choices you have to make, and it sucks. It stinks, and you guys all don't want to hurt anybody. But when money's down, if you're going to stay operating, you have to make tough cuts. So, as a department head, did I like answering my phone all the time? No. Did I like sometimes I had to go to the answering machine because I wasn't there, I was on a test drive? No. But to be there at the end, I have to make those decisions.
What's, we put down there part-time, what are we looking at per day?
They share the
20 hours a
You
week
don't have
is
another
what this
business
recommendation
sharing
is
check,
based
spending the
on.
money.
You're talking about the
That's the
secretary.
difference, I agree with you.
Yeah.
However, we don't share a checkbook,
Per
and
kid
everybody
hours,
doesn't
where's she
control.
gonna take them? 4
Just put
hours a
it-
day or something, or?
If you're
5
gonna
hour
do that,
days.
you should,
And then we can put it right on the voice message, I guess, on the phone.
if you're gonna do that, why don't you make it 21 days and allow for 3 7-hour days versus
21 hours.
4 5-hour days? That's.
I'll amend my motion to that. You support? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, could you please call roll?
If I may, could I have the motion read back? I just want to make sure that,
The motion was to accept the memo as presented and allow the sheriff by Monday to come up with $200,000 or of reductions or revenues or proceed to layoffs.
But the memo as presented would include.
Would include 21 hours instead of 20 hours.
And see, I thought at first we had her, she was totally gonna be laid off, but I see part-time.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Walters?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Whittington?
No.
Commissioner Virgil?
Yes.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Again, I am very sympathetic, and it makes me sick that we have to cut like this. But we did hire a financial coordinator to help us get through this and to justify our numbers and to make sure that the road that we, Terry and I and Bill and I, thought about that was going down, that we were. So I apologize that, we've got to do this, but these are the tough decisions we have to make. It's not personal, it's not politics, it's business at this point.
I was like, last night I've been sick to my stomach. I didn't sleep last night. And this has been on my mind.
Well, we'll definitely get with the sheriff's department again, hopefully, and hopefully we can rectify some of this. So, I think I saw Hargrave here. Mike? I still don't see Rick, so.
Just before you carried it or something?
Well, Carmen just mentioned earlier, if the motion cut hours or later on, I think the motion is for the hours. And I think
So, would you prefer that effective Monday or? So we would just have to amend the motion. You just,
I'm not going to executive session.
you want to go into the, okay.
Let's do Mike first.
Yeah. Commissioner O'Croft had to step out just for a second, so, but you can start, Mike, I think.
Well, good morning.
morning.
I too can understand the challenges the board has, and it is difficult. Times are tough, not only here in Lebanon County, but every other municipality in the state, so I don't envy the challenges that are before you. It is tough. I'm here this morning not to ask for money, but the airport has received funding to build a snow removal storage equipment building at the airport to house the equipment we have. Currently it's stored outside, or if I have a hangar available, we can put it there on the pavilion. The funding for this, the majority of it is through the FAA airport improvement funds. That money has been approved and has been received by MDOT and Lansing through the Bureau of Aeronautics. What I'm here for this morning is it's a standard agreement that we've done in the past for engineering and consulting for this building. The City Council in Gladwin met Monday night, this last Monday night, and approved it with a resolution for their approval and authorization for someone to sign that. Since the county and the city both oversee the operation of the airport, I also need a resolution and agreement signed by this board for the funding and approval for the project. This here is just the consulting and engineering. There is no funds being requested at this time. And the total project, those cost shares are passed and currently between the county and the city. However, the funding for this, the airport is going to be able to take care of the local match. So there will be no funding request from this board for that, for this project in its entirety. So what I'm asking for this morning is a resolution to accept this agreement for the county on behalf of the airport. Like I said, there is no funding request in here. This is primarily an agreement. I would ask that the board authorize a resolution. I do have a copy of Gladden Cities that can be used as a guide. Just needs to indicate the approval and who is authorized to sign that and have a signature for it.
I'll make that resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Support.
It's been moved and supported, Madam Clerk.
How much is the total?
Total project is in the area of around $300,000. I expect that to go down a little bit. The state and the local match. The local match is what we're concerned with. It's right around the neighborhood of $9,000, somewhere in there. And as I indicated earlier, that funding will take place through the airport. We won't be requesting any local match here from the county.
Don, can you make your motion include that the chair be allowed to sign that upon drafting, because we don't even have
Right,
it.
I put
Okay,
it
all
on.
right, thanks.
We worded it accordingly.
Okay, thanks. Ready?
Yep.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Whittington?
Yes.
Commissioner Burgle?
Yes.
Commissioner Carl?
Yes.
Commissioner Walters?
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you. Anything else, any questions for Mike or updates? Okay.
Thank
much.
you.
And I don't see Mr. Seebeck, and there was a request, you're requesting executive session? So do we have a motion to go into executive session in regards to?
I'll make that motion.
Ryan's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
That's not me.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll try to make this very quick, gentlemen. It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And I'd like to have the clerk read that motion down.
The motion would be that Carmen will work 21 hours a week with no MERS and be covered by county insurance, with the county paying June, July, and August of her premiums. And effective 9/1/13, she will still be employed part-time at 21 hours a week with COBRA options for healthcare.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Carmen, thanks for sticking around that long. Good night. I'm sorry.
And you want to tell the people that she wanted to?
Carmen would have rather been just flat laid off effective Monday, which puts us somewhat in a pinch, including myself and Terry. So we negotiated that plan, so we'll pick up her health care for the next 3 months as she's working the 21 hours a week, and that'll give us time for possible replacement or figure out where we're going, so. All right, moving along. Still no CVAC. Committee reports, Commissioner Walters.
Attended Thunder on the Strip, cooked breakfast, turned out great, good program. Yesterday, the ceremonies at the honor roll here at Gladden went well. A lot of people turned out, and Beaverton, same thing, they went great. And also, Mal Smith, Emil Smith, was at Beaverton. He was 101 years old, World War II. And I'm sure that they got some pictures yesterday. That was great that he was there, and thank him for his service.
Was that EMIL?
Yes.
Smith?
Schmidt.
Schmidt. SCHMITT?
DT.
MIDT. Thank you.
And veterans we've lost in the last month, Andrew George Eaton from Tobacco Township, World War II. Everett Lowell Kajak from Sage Township, Korea. Frank James Ribbit, City of Glavine, didn't say what branch services in. Paul Joseph Brubaker, Grove Township, World War II. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Walters. Commissioner Crowe?
Not a lot, Josh. Things seem to be going okay on the townships. However, Sherman Township, we could have Gina contact Paul Carson regarding some questions he has concerning the GIS letter she sent out.
He wants Gina to call or me?
I would like Gina to call.
Okay. I will. Anything else? Thank you, Commissioner Thurlow. Commissioner Erble.
Yeah, I attended the insurance webinar from Cadillac Insurance. I'm not sure anyone else was involved in that. We are still attempting to find ways to address what appears to be, continues to be unknowns or pop-ups that require different administrative attitudes than they've had historically. It didn't actually give me any new information because I've done a lot of research on it anyway, but it did it helped me to understand why they're having so many problems administratively because of the nature of it, the compliance with all of it. It isn't like ERISA when that took place. It was pretty much black and white. This is totally different change in the way it's being done. It's going to be a little bit of a problem, especially for Laura, when it once does kick in completely, it'll put a burden on our clerk to deal with that. Have you picked up anything at this point, Laura, about
It's been talked about a lot at conference, and Cadillac keeps me really informed.
they put on that November. The Michigan Northern Counties Association meeting in Grayling would continue to try to lobby to get issues resolved that impact us directly. The indigent defense system, for example, is the latest one that we've been working on, but it moves as slow as molasses in January. So the Beaver City meeting was canceled because of the storm. I attended the zoning board of appeals meeting, the fair board meeting, the Central Michigan District Board of Health meetings, and things are moving, but not necessarily as fast enough in many of these places. So that's it.
Thank you, Don. You was talking about some of your committees, and we are looking at, and there's been just brief discussion in finance and with Neil about appropriations that we are currently sending out to different state agencies and our own, and we just cut a few. So just so you guys know, we are going to be looking at that.
And tonight I have a meeting with mental health, and we're asking for them, we haven't paid them yet, and we're looking to ask them for a reduction of 10% of their budget, so.
Your board is, or we are? Oh, we are, yeah.
I alerted that I forgot to mention, that the Human Services Coordinating Committee meetings as well. I've alerted them that we have serious financial problems, so that if they needed any support from us, not to count, that we were not going to be able to comply. And I also, to the director of the Central Michigan District Board of Health, told them that we can't make our commitment to them currently. Don't count. But
We are, like I said, in the process, we're trying to figure out the wording more than anything. The legality issues will come before us as, people decide to respond, but nevertheless, we're looking at all avenues. So, is that all you had, Don?
yeah.
Terry, I guess you might as well do your stuff.
Yeah, first of all, I need to apologize to Secord, Grimm, and John's Township for not making the meeting, but we spent so much time up here. We've had 5 o'clock meetings, 5:30, 8, 9, but I will get back to those townships shortly.
Hopefully.
But and there's the whole list of finance budget committee meeting, basically something we came at the time. And probably because there was no finance,
Matters.
Oh,
No finance matters.
I didn't do them, no, I was only in the meeting for a couple minutes, I don't.
there, well, we did want to vote
So
on,
go to your
We
minutes
gotta
and look
do
to
the
see.
911
Yeah, 'cause-
minutes. I put that on Josh's,
Yeah.
correspondence.
the 911,
On your.
911 budget.
oh, and the budget,
the EMS proposed, actually.
EMS.
I can take care of that when I get into chairman comments, but I gotta, there was the,
yeah, I have it right here, it was in the bottom of my.
okay. There also was that clerk we spent so much time negotiating for district court. Whether we like it or not, and I don't like it, but, and I'll be the first to tell you. But we needed to allow them, where is that at on here? Why did we do that? That was the other finance meeting we had. Damn it. I don't know if we have those minutes here. The finance committee, Terry, was gonna recommend, allowing the district court to, well, he posted it too. Did you have that, Karen?
Well, I got one minutes, posted.
Is
You
that
sent it out already to department heads.
The consensus of the committee was that we fund the full-time position in district court. So we need to allow that money to be put back into their budget and to hire, to fill that position that was vacated. And we strongly suggested that they fill that internally. And if we had that in the form of a motion, I guess, we would then have Neil appropriate those funds back, because we essentially removed them.
I have a question before you go further on that.
Sure.
Let's say he does hire somebody internally from my office. Let's say that. So if I come to you, are you gonna say, no, you're not a court person?
Of course we're gonna say no.
That's exactly my point. Are you just gonna keep needling down until you get to that department that you
No.
don't wanna?
I don't know that's for finance to sit down with the department heads and work out. That's the whole point of all of this, working together.
But I really don't know how you can, I mean, you just hired 2 people in a matter of 5 minutes after laying 6 people off.
No, technically not, but
You're right, that's a mess.
yeah.
But,
So nevertheless, this board's decision, was there was a motion
And it's,
and support? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
That was retained, that wasn't taken.
No, that's how you're in the new one. Full time. But motion passes nevertheless. And was your report done? All right, we might as well pick up with the chairman comments, and I've been up here with Terry at all these meetings, and I can report on them, but it'll bore you to death, and you've heard most of it. We need to adopt the EMS budget, and you have that packet before you. They are doing very well. And John spent several minutes trying to explain their position and the direction they're going. They potentially, in the next few years, may have enough money, fund equity, that they can manipulate some funds around, may not have to collect on it, if I understood him correctly, for a short period of time. But they need to get enough fund equity in there that they won't have to assess that.
John puts a very good report together. Good budget.
And it would be nice not having to assess that. But, that being said, I would entertain a motion to accept this budget as moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Should we do roll call on this, or not necessary? Madam Clerk?
Winnington,
Yes.
Purple,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes. Bids for the tractor and equipment? Please, would you like to open it? fingernails.
With a pen. Okay, this one is from a William Mason. Bid is $1,250 for the tractor, including the brush hog and blade, which is not according to our specs.
Our reserve on the tractor alone was 3,200.
Okay. This one is for a back blade. Dan Grant, $180.
And we had 150.
I don't know, I'd have to look back at the minute.
Is it in?
Yeah, that's what you had, yeah.
Was it 150? Okay.
For the brush hog, $280 for Dan Grant.
And we had 250-ish on that, Rick? Do you remember?
2 or 250, I think 250 was the box cutter, the brush hog was 200.
Okay.
Was
So
in
you
pay.
still have two pieces that aren't sold, is that
There's
correct?
a,
A tractor and a box cutter?
yes. There's probably no big hurry on that yet, because I would probably just put it back in the paper at the same amounts. I don't think we want to lower
Those
the
are
price
the
on
only
it.
2 bids you got, is on that stuff there.
Right. Well, somebody bid 1,200 on the tractor and something else, but we had a reserve.
Tractor, brush hog, and rear blade.
Isn't that Bill Mason?
You didn't
Yeah.
receive any
Yeah.
other bids?
Maybe need to lower that reserve on the tractor and see where it goes.
All right, let's lower the reserve on the tractor to 3,000, put it back in the paper. We'll try that, otherwise we'll take it to auction. Fair enough?
I'm gonna vote on the other two for acceptance.
But, sure, we need to vote on the other two, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the bids. Is there a second?
Yes.
It's been moved second, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Mosquito control, I had Carmen put this on here because, for some reason, people thought I was the mosquito guy. And when they were so bad and people were getting carried off, they were calling me. I know township supervisors in the city, and the city called me also concerned about it. So I thought we would just mention here, it may at this point be appropriate to send a letter out to the townships asking if they would be interested in us exploring a countywide spray similar to gypsy moth. It may save everybody money. I don't know how many townships do it already, but I know that Buckeye does, and I think Secord and Billings,
And Buckman.
Buckman.
Tobacco just passed one last year, I think.
Yeah, so it's getting to that point that we may be able to save townships some money if we look at it. Again, it's more responsibility for us. We can just let it go, but if we could negotiate a better rate. The other thing is, I don't know that we necessarily have to be involved in it if we're the people that just go out and say, look, we're looking at everybody in the county being sprayed, everybody can handle their own funding for it, but negotiating a better rate for spray.
The one thing that I've looked at for several years now is changing the gypsy moth mission to incorporate the ash borer and other types of pests that have been so destructive, including mosquitoes. But it would need to take voter action, and so I tabled it, and because it is kind of complicated. But that's a good solution to be considered when we decide to take action. We've lost all the mature ash in Loudoun County at this point. And yet that's the kind of thing that if we had the authority to do so with gypsy moth, there were plenty of funds available to go after that pest. So. And that's not the only one, there's others. But
So at this point, do we just want to send a letter out to the townships and see if they're interested in a partnership, maybe would be a better word for it? Exploring the mosquito.
in a very real way, you're looking at next year anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to happen this year.
Something that we're considering and would they be interested?
Yeah, just something very generic and just let them know we're looking at it. Maybe we could partner up and save everybody money. I'm not saying that it has to be a countywide millage necessarily, although.
I think village like fees is $250,000.
Okay. Something you want me to do? Done. You saw that the Clark County Sheriff's Reserve is requesting some funding, in fact, this was more Terry and I, this has been an ongoing conversation for some time. The entities that are on the 911 towers for the county of Gladwin, we have always tried to make it fair. We tried to set rates. We've tried different things to make sure that the county didn't have to pay more than what the other entities are. So at one point, we were just assessing people, let's say $200, although it's more than that. And then the overall cost would be higher than what the 200 was, and the county would end up having to pay more. What we're looking at doing is just simply amending that contract, sending it back to them for approval, but just basically stating that we're going to equally split the portion of our tower bills. So whatever the bill is, we're splitting it amongst the entities that are on there equally every year. And if you guys are interested in that, we'll have Doug Jacobson look at that wording and send that.
That's a fair way to do it.
Yeah, that's what Terry and I kind of thought. It's just easier and cleaner. Some years, you have a windstorm and if the tower gets tweaked and it needs to be recertified, and then we get zung with the difference. So, no problems there? Okay. We will send out that letter. And do we have anything else that you can think
I
of?
think
The CBAC thing, he was going to give us a report at some point. So I'll get with him again on that. All right, I guess that's all we have. Are there any more comments from the board? Any more comments from the public? Sheriff.
I was absent when you guys did some earlier voting, so I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention that I think needs to be brought to your attention. I'm looking at the memorandum dated May 26th. It was on Sunday, as best I know. Today's Tuesday, fair enough. On page 1 of that memorandum from Neil Hammerbacher, you'll notice that $239,000, that was an early number. We've given phase 1 and phase 2, and yet that number doesn't change. Not sure why, not sure how. Even with all the explanations I put in this, we still don't have a change to that number. Secondarily, the very last page, $1,051,844. That number seems to be unchanged after several department heads put their heads together and give a list to the board. Phase 1, phase 2 kind of thing. But the part that's somewhat more disturbing, based on what I take was an earlier layoff vote, is in the middle of page 2, about 2/3 of the way down. In fact, I'll read it to you if you don't have your copy. It says, poor decisions made by the county commissioners in the past, 75% of the general fund's costs come from personnel. And in the past, the Board of Commissioners was probably too generous with labor contracts. The last time that I looked this up, so I'm going to have to take this from memory, your 911 telecommunicators are almost the lowest paid out of any SEB comparable county. The last I knew, they were second from bottom. So I'm not sure where your generosity weighs in on that. Your corrections officers, your full-time wage that you folks pay those people is commensurate with those that are at a part-time wage in counties that surround us. Again, I don't know where your generosity falls in there. And last but certainly not least, your county deputies, which are few and far in between, and it's your only county's full-time law enforcement, unlike those other counties that touch us, again, are almost at the bottom. And all three of those folks, again, with your generosity, any new hire I get is going to get a subpar retirement. So I'm not sure the statement about you folks being too generous. Boy, that's tough to swallow. our 911 service, and you can check this because it's FOIA accessible, of course, they'll save you the money if you just call over. During the storm in Beaverton, our emergency services folks, and particularly your 911, had a CAD call, and they CAD'ed a 911 power line down and trees down and all kinds of things once a minute for 3 hours. If you want to take a stroll afterwards and go over there and see how busy those folks were. And by the way, that was being done with 3 and most 4 personnel, and a couple of those personnel just stuck around after their shift to get the job done. So you're leaving your community based on a previous vote out to the wolves, number one. So I think it's important to your community and the folks that you have to report to that we make sure that we get your home phones and your cell phones and that kind of stuff over to 911 in the event that they're able to answer the emergency line. They need to make sure that those responsible for the lack of personnel are the ones that are notified, which would be you 5. That's important. You're taking me to at least at the very minimum, to my statutory responsibility or less, which is the serviceable level thing, and I'm sure you've all heard of that MAC before. So without getting into those situations, and in a very real way, that serviceable level is the question at hand. We're your only law enforcement in the community, you know that. But I think it's important that you clearly get from me that I don't agree with a last-minute document. And I would love to say that me and Ray could come over and spend every meeting with you folks, but one or the other of us, and happened to be me doing business there and Ray here this morning. And I think it's my obligation as the elected official to tell you you're going down a very bad road here. For the community's sake, if nothing else.
I couldn't agree more, and quite honestly, I don't like these recommendations. I don't like to have to do them, but it boils down to money. And really, we want you to sit down with Neil and or finance at any given moment. Again, Terry and I have been making ourselves readily available for anybody and everybody that has a concern or suggestion, and give us some numbers that you like, because these are just numbers that Neil come up with. And again, he points out that, you're the best guy to give us numbers. And we do truly want to sit down with you, and we would prefer you giving us the numbers and where we can cut and where the revenues are. And I know you're currently working on a prescription drug plan, and I don't know what those numbers are. You haven't got back with us yet on that, but,
I'm doing inmate meals cheaper today than it was when I took over 10 years ago.
I agree. We
I'm
talked
getting
about
blood
that
out of
too.
the turnip here. My costs of increase across the street on almost every one of those budgets is less than the CPI. I can't do it any cheaper, and all the paper clips are gone, and all the the paper's gone. Everything has been drained out. So to give you numbers that aren't there is unrealistic. So we have to operate in those confines. And it's not easy. Jim Cuddy didn't sleep for 3 days on that Robinette thing. You know why? I don't have anybody else. And I was there. I was out there. Somebody drove by. You'd seen me. I should be in here giving numbers or something instead. I just don't agree with that. We only have so much personnel, and we're overworking them at that. I'm just telling you, we're bad road, and the serviceable level thing is the issue at hand, I think.
Well, the guy we need to talk to, and you guys, is Neil, because that's who we hired to help us with these numbers. And he's made multiple recommendations back to us on where we could and should cut, and we've not liked any of them. And then it gets to the point where we're not doing any cuts, so then he gives us this recommendation again. Once again, I'm telling you, board, you better cut back.
If Neil gives some more things on Sundays, I'll talk to Neil on my own.
I was all weekend working with Neil trying to get this, because, the bottom line is, he wants us to cut, and I need to be comfortable that he's comfortable with numbers. And
I live in the land of surprises across the street, but for this to have come out on a Sunday And it's our first day back with the courthouse and all those kind of things open, because throughout the holiday, it was a typical holiday for us. But the first I had seen this is when I walked in here. Really?
I understand that surprise, but it's been no secret that we've been wanting to cut, and he's been recommending cuts for months. And how long do we wait before we do anything? It's,
Well, the justification is this. I mean, I can ask specific questions. I don't want to draw anybody out on the carpet now, but at the end of the day, the funding is there for those telecommunications folks. Justify to me why we're laying one off.
because the funding comes in and the funding goes out. So every bit of the money that goes in to 911 funnels through general fund. It's 100%, every bit of it. What he's saying is, even 911 alone should have fund equity. That's why. And if we don't, if we have those bad days like we just had, and we have to pay overtime to those people that did do a fantastic job, by the way, that money should be there so we can do that.
The 216 account, which is the millage account, 280, which is surcharge, 282, which is the wireless funding. If we look at those things, particularly 216 and 280, there is equity in there because that millage won't pay for itself in the 5th year of that. We've already got some equity built in by no hand of the boards, by hand of the county sheriff. That's who's responsible for that fiscal management, and there's money in there, and if we don't mess with those things, that will pay it during the 5th year, so we don't have to go back to the taxpayer. I know these things. We can check on them if necessary.
But again, have we sat down with Neil and talked to him about all that? And that's what we want to happen. That's what this board wants to happen. Please.
Thanks.